Joshua Hayward, and thanks for joining me for life readings this week in the Stars and Cards. And let me extend an invitation to you to join me each week as I explore all the possibilities and the challenges and the opportunities for inward growth and outward effectiveness. And this is brought to you by Breath of Life School in Yellow Springs, Ohio, and many blessings. Enjoy. So are you ready to ask for and maybe to receive a moment of grace? Because that's available for you. In this last week, building up to this week, which begins on Sunday, August the 22nd, this past week was the build-up toward the Uranus station, which went retrograde on I believe it was Friday the 20th, and on Saturday the 21st, there's a full moon, the second full moon in Aquarius, conjunct Jupiter. Pretty awesome day, Saturday. So we're looking at Uranus stationing on Friday and that full moon. Very powerful, very positive and expansive type of time. I did last week, if you recall right, sort of mentioned the possibility of some violence and things like that. I think we've avoided a lot of that. You can take a look at your life in this last week and see what kind of turmoil, and maybe you came to some clear changes that you wanted to make in your life. So maybe you're ready for a moment of grace here as we begin this week, just following these sort of momentous planetary events, and as we move forward with all of the planets, that are really meaningful, especially the outer planets, having reversed direction and gone retrograde, except for Jupiter, which will happen later on. But now we've got this force involuting on us to really take a look at our lives, and for you, the viewer, the listener here, what's coming up is a moving forward with what we know, and taking that in and seeing what actually can be done between now and next January, when Uranus stations again. That time to go direct, and all the planets will have shifted toward that. At least the meaningful ones will have shifted towards that direct motion, and so we move forward once again. It's sort of like breathing every year, breathing in, breathing out, sort of like a 6-month kind of thing that's happening. Okay, so got grace, got a moment to ask and to receive grace. There are epiphanies that are awaiting us if we just open up to what's really inside our hearts. And in this weekend, it's really a great time for receiving that grace. And as we move through this week that's coming up, we have a Mercury and Mars conjunction in Virgo as we enter into the first few days after Sunday, moving into the first of the week for the first few days. We've got Mars and Mercury in the sign of Virgo. Usually that can be kind of confrontative, a lot of energy being put forth into what needs to be done. There's almost an argumentative, very driven kind of thing about seeing what needs to be done, understanding it, Mercury, and actually needs to be done and asserted in a very, Virgo does rule perfection, so very little anal retentive here, kind of like here's how things need to happen. Yet what's going to happen is that as the moon moves away from that full moon on Saturday, from Aquarius on into Pisces, the moon will oppose Mercury and Mars, and so there'll be this drivenness, to get things right, and yet an emotional level of confusion that might be challenging here. So right off the gate here, let's just take it easy. I would just ask you to see where you're at. Wait for that epiphany. Perhaps you've already got that epiphany. Perhaps you've already got grace. And grace is that perfect gift from Spirit. It's all the impetus that we need. Grace is what we live through and live by. The grace of God is what allows life to be. And when we accept that within us, we can really become edified and clear. We can become clear. We can feel good about things, and we can move forward. So there's a rigidity that is coming into question at the beginning of the week. All right, a couple of things that I just wanted to share. The violence that we maybe didn't see here domestically, yet there is violence that's building with the reaction to the removal of the troops from Afghanistan. And I guess if anyone saw that coming, it would have to look pretty chaotic, reminiscent of the old days when the troops were withdrawn from Vietnam. That's a really long time ago. I don't want to get into the politics of all that, but what we can see is there's so much judgment around that. There's support, there's judgment, there's the chaos, and then there is the violence, and there's the violence that Taliban has against women that's come into play here too. So we can see that Uranus station being a big part of that. And on a lesser level, the internet format for displaying artwork, but also sex work too, onlyfans.com, okay, has now announced that it will withdraw people's ability to be sex workers on that venue, on that platform, shall we say. And sex workers are what? If you don't know about this, it's kind of interesting. And because we're looking at Uranus in the sign of Taurus, here's the change. The sex workers built up OnlyFans into what it is right now, and it's run off of that, and then they're going to turn their backs on that, and a lot of both men, women, transsexuals, non-binary, all kinds of people, whoever they are, and however they identify, are many of them without any other, especially with COVID and all that, don't really have another avenue. They're counting on that for their money. So here's the Taurus part of that. And the morality and value systems also coming into play around that. So these are things that the Uranus station really brought out on the big picture. So for you, for having that moment of grace, that moment of understanding of who you are on a deeper level and letting that grace move through you, You can take those two things and maybe some other things that you've noticed lately and see that they might be exaggerated reflections or something that you can learn from. Morality and value systems and money, these kind of things. Nothing is static. Everything has to change. It's just the way that things are. We've talked about that many times in this format on this show. So, okay, there you have it. You can look for that moment of grace, and you can begin to implement that, maybe slowly this week. Take the beginning of the week, and there'll be a lot of kind of precisely driven tendencies that want to happen. Take it slow and let that grace come through you and let it begin to flow. And here we're going to have some six cards here to kind of delineate how things work, how you can work on your allowing grace to flow through your life. And the first card is the Queen of Wands, and she is the intuitive part of fire. Okay, so she is very much like the Emperor card, like a very powerful person but that runs not necessarily on logic, but runs on an inner knowingness. Okay, so if you assume her as maybe a stance to take, to allow that grace to flow in through, and let your intuition tell you where to go with that. Okay, so that's the first card. The second card, really interesting, because here would be the Prince of Wands, who would be very related like her son. Okay, and so he is a creator, and he's a changer of the status quo with creative abilities being put forth. You can see the lion, which kind of echoes the sign Leo, and the Chariot. So upping the game, leveling up with the change, got grace, gonna move with it. Okay. Let's go with the third card. And as that happens, we've got a really positive card, and this is Fortune, also called the Wheel of Fortune. You can see the wheel here. That means that this week, it's the genesis of things, the wheel turning and moving to a new cycle, and a fortunate type of cycle, especially if you're allowing it to come from grace and not from too much thinking and projections of others, and also negative projections of your own limitations from yourself. Let's let go of that, okay? That's what allows the gates of heaven to open, if you will, right here on the earth. And, another thing, got love. Lots of stuff here, okay? The Two of Cups, which is called love. And it's a Venus in Cancer, so there's a strong emotional content. This is connection, it's got relationship. But I really feel like if you're letting grace pour through your life, that you're enacting with that Prince of Wands, you're saying, I'm doing what I love to do. And you're allowing relationship to happen, whether it be with another person or whether it be with what you love to do. Okay, another card here. And the good cards just keep flowing through today. And I'm actually recording this, I have to mention, on Saturday, right in the space of that full moon conjunct Jupiter here. I probably won't get this video released until tomorrow. And then so if you're listening to it, on Sunday or after that, maybe you can remember back, because this is a continuum, All right, so this card is Dominion, okay, the Two of Wands. This is where it works. So this week you can begin to see where things are going to work for you, where it's going to happen. This is the turning of the tides in a very, very cool way. Mars is in the sign of Aries here, so action can be taken, and that harkens back to that Prince of Wands too. Remember though that the Queen of Wands is that significator card. She's the one that's allowing that grace to flow through. All right, and this is where it can happen. Okay, so one more card here, and I'm going with this one here. Now, this is the Knight of Cups, and what I'm getting around this card is very Cancerian. You can see the crab up here in the cup. This guy, and he's more of a masculine energy of that desire for love, that sort of passion to live within spirit, to have ecstasy, if you will, living in touch with grace. It's almost as if the Knight of Cups is saying to you, yeah, I have the passion for that grace to fill the cups of my life, and for me to not only act with that active passion of the Prince of Wands, who's really, really getting out there and making a difference, sort of channeling that energy through this beautiful desire to have grace in your life with whatever it is that you're really wanting to pull into your life, whether it just be like actually making change in your life, in the outer world of your circumstances, or if it could just be feeling that love within and making that change within, or perhaps both. So with that beauty and that grace, in fact, what that knight would say to you would be to seek the divine in all things. And this is Joshua Hayward saying to you, may your cups be full, and may your days be filled with grace. And I'll see you next time for life readings this week in the stars and cards. Blessings be to you.